NATO has 32 members, and the United Kingdom currently ranks as the second last in terms of their military preparedness. The only country below the UK is Iceland, and Iceland has no military. But this isn't just some statistics. In March 2026, a UK airbase in Cyprus came under a highly sophisticated, targeted drone attack. The Royal Navy should have immediately deployed an advanced air defense asset to secure the airspace, protect the base, and project sovereign deterrence. But they didn't, because they couldn't. There was no Type 45 destroyer in a state of readiness to immediately deploy. In fact, HMS Dragon did not manage to sail to the eastern Mediterranean until more than a week after the attack occurred. In stark contrast, the French Navy rapidly mobilized an impressive 11-ship fleet that headed for the Mediterranean days before the solitary British vessel could even leave the port. Today, we're going to look at the total paralysis of Britain's nuclear attack submarine fleet, the engineering disasters of their surface fleet, and the radical, highly controversial gamble the UK is taking by abandoning traditional destroyers in favor of an untested, uncrewed hybrid navy, and some technologies that have not even been invented yet. The UK is no longer capable of managing a nuclear submarine program. Not my words, but of the UK's former Director of Nuclear Policy at the Ministry of Defence, Rear Admiral Philip Mathias, in December 2025. And he's 100% right. This is HMS Audacious, one of the 5 Astute-class submarines operated by the Royal Navy. These 7,800-ton vessels are supposed to shadow Russian submarines, gather covert signal intelligence, and protect the Royal Navy's high-value carrier strike groups. The UK spent billions trying to build the quietest attack submarines in the world, and they succeeded. As of July 2026, every single Astute-class submarine has been extremely quiet because they're all stuck in port. This is Devonport in Plymouth. It's the largest naval base in Western Europe and the only site in the UK that can deep maintain a nuclear submarine, things like refit and refueling operations. And there is the problem. There are only 14 dry docks at Devonport, numbered 1 through 15. Yes, they superstitiously skipped dock number 13, which is ironic, because if they'd actually built dock number 13, they would have had 7% more maintenance capacity. Out of those 14 docks, only 4 of them are publicly known to be able to support nuclear-powered submarines, which should still be sufficient, given that there are currently only 5 Astute-class submarines active. The thing is, there is a severe prioritization crisis happening at Devonport. See, the single most important military commitment the UK has is to keep France slightly nervous. But their second most important commitment is to enforce continuous at-sea deterrence with the help of the Vanguard ballistic missile submarines. This is a non-negotiable, fundamental strategic posture to ensure that at least one nuclear-armed submarine is always on patrol in the deep ocean, guaranteeing a second strike capability. But because the Vanguard-class boats are now operating far beyond their originally intended service lives, they need increasingly complex, extended, and unpredictable refits to remain operationally safe. The result is that Vanguards completely monopolize the limited specialized dry docks at Devonport. This means the Astute-class submarines have been continuously pushed down the maintenance priority list, which has actually normalized the highly inefficient practice of equipment cannibalization. Between 2016 and 2017, 28% of Astute-class defects were fixed using cannibalized parts. HMS Ambush alone was cannibalized 43 times to support other submarines that had a higher operational need. And with all these current issues, not only the UK is still working on building and commissioning its last 2 Astute-class submarines, but they've also committed to start building the AUKUS class, the successor to the Astute class. They can build them, but can they maintain and operate them? The Royal Navy's operational readiness crisis is not limited to the underwater world. Their surface fleet is experiencing an equally severe deficit, centered primarily around the 6 Type 45 Daring-class guided missile destroyers commissioned between 2009 and 2013. The Type 45 destroyer had a catastrophic design flaw within its highly integrated electric propulsion system. The original WR-21 gas turbines used a complex intercooler and recuperator design that would fail in warm climates, like the Persian Gulf or Red Sea, resulting in a total loss of electrical power. To fix this, they had to physically cut into the hulls of all 6 destroyers to replace massive diesel generators and refurbish gas turbines. The UK Ministry of Defence had long planned to replace the Type 45 by early 2030s with a new destroyer, the Type 83. One of the biggest improvements in this new class was a deep missile magazine containing between 70 to 128 vertical launch system cells. This deep magazine was considered absolutely critical to countering the saturation attack of hypersonic glide vehicles, advanced anti-ship ballistic missiles, and swarms of drones. But in June 2026, a document was published that changed everything. The publication of the UK's 2026 Defence Investment Plan confirmed a radical, highly controversial departure from traditional naval procurement. The Type 83 program has now been entirely cancelled without a direct, equivalently armed successor. Instead, to replace the cancelled Type 83 program and the Type 45 destroyers that are now forfeiting midlife refit to start retiring in 2035, the Ministry of Defence has pivoted aggressively toward a doctrine of autonomous and remote warfare. The Defence Investment Plan pledges £1.5 billion specifically for the transition to a hybrid navy. This doctrine outlines the firm procurement of at least 6 Common Combat Vessels or CCVs, with initial deliveries expected in the early 2030s. Rather than functioning as a heavily armed, centralized arsenal ship, the CCV is designed as a relatively inexpensive, lean-crewed command and control hub. These new ships will work alongside 8 Type 26 and 5 Type 31 crewed frigates, as well as Type 91 uncrewed missile platforms, Type 92 uncrewed underwater sensing platforms, Type 93 extra-large uncrewed underwater vehicles, and Type 94 uncrewed sensor platforms. But this is not the complete plan. See, the plan does not list every item, because they expect to buy technologies that has not yet been developed or invented. This is while peer and near-peer adversaries are engaging in historic, rapid naval expansions focused heavily on deep magazine destroyers. China is mass-producing the Type 55, fielding 112 VLS cells. The United States continues to heavily iterate on the Arleigh Flight 3 with 96 cells and is investing billions in developing the next generation DDG-X. Even North Korea launched its first 2 destroyers in 2025 and is projected to overtake the United Kingdom in total destroyer numbers by 2029. The hybrid navy sounds like the future, until you ask yourself, who's actually going to operate it? A fleet built around drones, sensors, and autonomous missile platforms needs highly skilled engineers and technicians, exactly the people the Royal Navy is already struggling to keep. Marine engineers are leaving for better-paying civilian jobs. The Navy is short-staffed and the numbers look ridiculous. Around 20,000 operational sailors versus 50,000 civilian staff at the Ministry of Defense. So Britain is trying to build a futuristic drone fleet with a manpower system that can barely support the fleet it already has. Now, some say, look at Ukraine, which has done quite well, destroying the Russian Black Sea Fleet with naval drones. So why should the Royal Navy not replicate this in the North Atlantic? The thing is, the area of the Black Sea is equivalent to this circle in the Atlantic Ocean. And let's not forget, Ukraine is not fighting the war with drones because it's the best way to fight a modern war. They do it out of necessity. Ukraine was starved of all other military hardware and funds by its allies, so they had no choice but to go 100% in on relatively cheap and easy to produce drones. So by betting its military's naval future on drones, is the UK admitting that their country cannot economically support a modern military? Or maybe drones are really the future? Only time will tell. But one thing is for sure. Creating a hybrid navy based on a completely untested, highly complex autonomous command architecture is inherently risky. This capability drop extends across the entire fleet. The newly announced joint amphibious ship program with the Netherlands scales the UK's original requirement from 6 vessels down to just 4. Furthermore, swapping a bespoke, heavy British assault design for a smaller 15,000-ton Dutch utility hull represents a massive loss in both total gross tonnage and independent force entry capability. It's a textbook defense cut, disguised as a modern partnership. Lacking the deep magazine endurance of large destroyers currently being mass-produced by peer adversaries, the hybrid fleet may find itself unable to survive prolonged engagements. Unless the systematic drivers of the capability collapse, specifically the procurement black hole and the devastating recruitment doom loop, are urgently rectified, the transition will not serve as a vanguard of a technological revolution. Instead, it will confirm the definitive transformation of the Royal Navy from a premier global blue water power into a fragile, localized defense force.